Good day, I welcome all of you who has joined us. Media Center Ukraine Forum is going on with its work, 176th day of the full-scale invasion of Russian aggressor, and we will be speaking now about the current situation in Luhansk region. We are in touch with Serhiy Haidai, the head of Luhansk military administration. Serhiy, hello. Good day. Serhiy, let us begin with what is happening now at the occupied territory. What's the situation there? We understand that our citizens are constantly under shellings of the occupiers. What is happening now? Well, the situation is rather complicated because the whole territory is covered in combats in the suburbs as well, and in the outskirts. So far, the reserves are getting ready. We can see that the reserves are getting ready. We would say that they will try to press onto the armed forces of Ukraine, not only to officially, but also to formally get to the administrative borders of Luhansk region. And at the areas where the active combats took place, the people who are still staying there have an awful situation with anything, with water, with gas, with the future heating season, with the waste disposal, with hospitals. So, in fact, to live to the full scale, well, we can't even speak about that. According to your info, how many people are staying in Lugansk region now? If we take the territory of Luhansk Oblast, that is region which used to be governmentally controlled after the occupation in 2014, we still have approximately 350,000 residents. Do those people have an opportunity to leave this territory to the territory which is controlled by Ukraine, or they don't have this opportunity anymore and the occupiers blocked the exits? No, so far there is an opportunity to leave. There are three ways to get out. The first is through the dam, through Kharkiv region. The only thing is that you can get there on foot only. The second option is through Zaporizhia region. And the third option is longer and expensive. Those are the tickets prices through Russia and then Baltic countries. But it's approximately 300 euro. Do we understand properly that in Luhansk region, everything is destroyed as of critical infrastructure? They don't have either power or water or gas. Well, 4.5 months of shellings by Russian army of the territory of the defense line brought to such consequences. Everything is totally destroyed. They don't have the centralized water supply, gas supply. They try to restore power now, but without the substation. So I may say that you don't need to be a prophet to see that all of that will be burning all the time. So even the occupiers are able to bring the pipelines, though I totally doubt in that, but even if they manage to do that, I mean, the gas pipeline within the cities, the infrastructure is still destroyed, and they won't be capable to restore them. The cities won't be ready for the heating period. The whole system will be defrosted. They used to say that in a couple of months everything will be restored. Now they changed their words, and they said that, for instance, in Popasna city, there is no sense to restore it at all. As of the high-precision hits of the armed forces of Ukraine against the warehouses of the occupiers. We heard the latest info about the strikes against the security service building in Lysychansk and Popasna. Could you comment on this situation? And maybe you're in touch with the local population. What are they telling about? Well, as of the hits and strikes by our artillery, by the armed forces of Ukraine, with the help of the foreign arms and weapons, as the help of our partners, Mostly, those are the warehouses with ammunitions and the command points which are now in the rear of Russian troops on the territory of Luhansk region. Those are powerful strikes which have high precision, and it really slowed down the offensive of the Russians after they came to Lysychansk. As of the explosions which took place in Lysychansk in particular, as the Russians say, that was just very uncautious behavior with smoking and fags. As for mobilization in Luhansk region, yesterday we saw the video from the occupied Donetsk region, where mobilization is conducted just people are taken when the person can come to the kindergarten to take a child, and there we can see that the occupiers are detenting people. So what about mobilization at Luhansk region? What's happening there? The situation is similar, the same. It's horrid, as if the first wave of mobilization, which the so-called Luhansk People Republic was dealing with, the man at least had an opportunity to buy freedom or to mention some of the arguments not to become servicemen. The second wave was provided by FSB employees. They did not take money. They had a decree and the task to deliver as many people as possible to the front line. After the huge losses which were inflicted during the offensive to the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine, their losses were really substantial, and they are already taking now anybody. It doesn't matter for them. As you've mentioned about the case in Donetsk region, when the father was taken from the kindergarten and he was the only breadwinner in the country, in the family, so he could not, there was no one to take the child anymore. And the men are being fired from the mines and the communal enterprises of critical significance, and still they are getting fired, because if they are officially employed, then the people can get mobilized. And even the medical commission cannot be organized. Whether the person is sick or not, how much the person is sick, it doesn't matter. For them, it's important to take the expendables. In the south of Ukraine, sometimes we hear conversations about the so-called referendum, which is planned there. Are there such conversations in Luhansk region? Yes, the occupiers are conducting similar conversations. Moreover, as for the situation, they already had some people with propaganda materials and slogans. They even made deals about some premises where the referendum could take place. They still consider that Luhansk region, when it was occupied in 2014, at 1/3 of the whole Luhansk region, there were more people residing, because bigger cities were occupied with the biggest number of population. The whole Luhansk region had 2,250,000 of population before the occupation of the liberation of the part in 2014. So they consider that if the people are under occupation for 8 years, that they are brainwashed already, so maybe they will get the necessary effect. Serhiy, let us speak about the help for the people who managed to leave from the temporarily occupied part of Luhansk region. How can they get help and support? I know that this help is organized by you and provided by you. So a bit of useful information for these people. Well, look, in each of the regions, we understand that there were approximately 300,000 people who were forcefully evacuated, who had to evacuate. Sometimes there are 2,000 or 3,000 of people living in some regions. Some regions have 20,000 of people accommodated. So in each of the regions, we are creating the humanitarian hubs or headquarters. In each of the regions, there is a responsible person. out of our communities, that is gromadas, either the heads of military civil administrations or military administrations, or the heads of the amalgamated territorial communities who left, and they are responsible for their region. They are responsible for this or that humanitarian hub. All of the addresses, contact phones can be found at the official webpage of Luhansk Regional Administration, at my personal webpage as well, and we have provided the Telegram channel. In the Telegram channel, we created the chatbot with an opportunity to pose questions or to leave some of the contact data for us to get in touch with people and to help them to solve their issues. We did not manage to open those hubs anywhere, but in a week we will totally cover the territory of the whole country, disseminating humanitarian relief. The people will be able to provide consultations, and we are also working constructing or repairing the premises to accommodate people with critical situation. Serhiy, let us speak a bit about guerrilla. Is it working, the resistance at the occupied Luhansk region? Could you tell a bit about the outcomes of this movement? Well, of course, I will not share any details or name any surnames, but yes, the resistance or guerrilla exists. As an outcome, we are publishing, by the way, pictures of the cards which are being disseminated against the occupiers, against the Russian troops and the people who are supporting. And also, there can be unexpected issues of logistics among the occupiers. For instance, some distribution substation can be burning, which allows to redistribute the direction of the trains. So this equipment can be burnt on its own. It catches fire on its own. Sometimes something happens with collaborators and they can't work and then they just die. So we can say that Luhansk region is keeping defense, and not only along the border but within, deeper in the rear of the Russian army, where we have the temporary occupation. We have the question from here, please. Victoria Nakonechna, Ukrinform. I will have several questions. First, which part of the territory of Luhansk region is under control of Ukraine, and are there civilians staying there? Just a little part is still under control of Ukraine. 20 settlements where we have the active combats now. The people, if they're there, you cannot just come there, and it's impossible to evacuate people from there because it's dangerous for both who are there now and for those who would like to be evacuated. For me, it's very painful every time when we lost some settlement, when I had to change my points. I always said, let us evacuate, let us leave, and then there was some point in time when I had to say, please stay in the shelters. The same is the situation in these settlements. Just a couple of villages where the active warfare is ongoing, the shellings are permanent from different types of arms, so it's just lethally dangerous to leave from those places. In the public space, the topic of the construction of accommodations for the internally displaced Ukrainians is being discussed. Could you please tell to the residents of Luhansk region about any of the details about that? The amounts of construction, funding, the queue, how the people get the accommodation, and so on. We are not waiting for any state programs. If God gives them, we will work with them. But so far there is no funding, though there is a regional budget there is some of the money left in the local communities or hromadas. I had negotiations with several regions or oblasts. We even signed memorandums, and we will be moving into several directions simultaneously. We are working now constructing the module campuses and cottages campuses, and also capital repairment and construction of the premises which are not used now, and if the communities are not planning to use them. The repairment and maintenance works will be the most efficient and the quickest, because the building is already there. You just need some of the internal works, and then the accommodation will be ready. The same concerns the international and foreign partners. We are constantly in the process of negotiations. We have certain developments, and we are ready for cooperation with them under different conditions. And if they create something at their own expense, maybe they would like to cooperate with us 50-50, for instance, or any other ratio. Still, it's so important for us to involve and attract money from the foreign partners to get as much accommodation as possible. As for distribution, there is the code, there will be commissions. We have the system. The only point I'd like to say, we applied this document to the Cabinet of Ministers because we have a unique situation, unfortunately, when people after 2014 got the status of the internally displaced person, and now again they are IDPs, so they again had to leave their place, their buildings. So I think whether the people who had to become displaced twice, they lost everything twice, I think that they should be the first to get accommodation. Any other questions? Yes, the last question. I could see the opinion of some experts that, and your comments and from other heads of military administrations about the actions of the armed forces of Ukraine within the regions, that it's not your competence. What are your military authorities as the head of the military oblast administration? And what are the sources where you get to know about the results of the actions in the rear of the adversary from? Of course, do not name the people, but the type of the sources. Are those your sources, or maybe some of the occupiers leaking information? Well, it would be weird if the occupiers leaked any information themselves. Everything which concerns the military information, the main source is the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. As of some of the actions, let us say, of the guerrilla, so-called guerrilla, within the occupied part of Luhansk region, there are our own sources, which are rather competent, but I cannot tell you more about that, sorry. I thank you. I would remind we had Serhiy Haidai here, the head of Luhansk Regional Military Administration. Thank you for finding time and joining our air, and I thank all of our colleagues who are working to highlight truth about this war and heroic resistance of Ukrainian people. Thank you, and stay with us.